Here from Being in Sync 366 video series. Today's discussion is all about shadow work. This is 5 things that you need to know about shadow work, and this is a requested video from yesterday's live session. We're coming up towards the end of the year, and I asked what topics people wanted to hear, and this was one of them. So I'm just going to wait 5 minutes for people to join on. And just relax until we get people on here. The notifications are out. This video series is really about alignment. And people always ask me, what is it that you do? And, you know, it's hard to describe, but oftentimes I'm like a detective. And I help people align physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And that's because all energy runs in patterns, and these patterns, when they are misaligned or incongruent, it changes how we perceive reality, how we interact, how we communicate, how we know ourselves. So that's what I'm here to do, is to share a little bit about how to align within through this series so you too can be aligned to the natural laws. Now, today we're talking about shadow work, which most people have a familiarity with, but they don't really know how it works or why it works. So today we're talking about 5 aspects of shadow work that will help people. Hey, Eric, hello. The friend that I've never met but is here every day. And so glad to see you here, Eric. So nice. You put a smile on my face. You started these videos almost when I did. I don't know when you started following, but you have been so dedicated to being a participant on these chats. It's so awesome. Hey, Draco. Good to see you here. Angelica, hi. Just waiting 5 minutes until we start today's topic. I am going to put a poll question in, so I might go silent here for a moment. So I just put a question in the comments here. Hello, Oliver's here helping us. Thank you. The question is, have you done any shadow work? Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Yash. What a nice comment. Happy New Year. Happy New Year for sure. So, Zoya usually comes on here and asks me all kinds of questions for the new year. I do have a whole process in which I go into the new year. But today we're not talking about that. Today we are talking about shadow work. So if you have done shadow work, give me or have not done shadow work, let's hear in the chats. Put up a poll. I'm just waiting 5 minutes before I go and talk about the 5 aspects of shadow work that most people are not consciously aware of. And shadow work is very common in the spiritual communities. I do believe traditional psychologists are familiar with shadow work, but to be honest with you, I've never met a therapist, and this just could be my small exposure to traditional therapy, which I think is pretty small because I don't buy into those dogmas personally. However, I've never heard of anybody actually doing shadow work in the way that I do it in energy psychology. And it's really not about what I'm doing versus what other people are doing, but how you are understanding shadow work. So, is it 5 minutes yet? Almost 5 minutes here. Just seeing what you guys are saying. Abigail works at Subway. All right, Abigail, hopefully you enjoy those sandwiches. Good to see you back here, Draco. Oh, Sanil says, thank you. You are a change in my perspective about life after my breakup. Oh, good. I'm so glad whatever I helped you with was helpful. Amaya says, I look like an elementary school. Hey, so whatever I look like, that's just your projections, okay? I promise you, I have nothing to do with any formal dogmas like education, medical, doctors, psychology. That's not my swim lane. I focus on alignment, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment, and I do that through the natural laws, the principles that govern all energy. And one thing that most people don't really understand is the power of shadow work. So today we're talking about 5 aspects of the shadow work that I think would be most helpful for you all to have an understanding of. So first, let me just say, what is shadow work? Shadow is where the light has not shined. So think of it as often hidden, buried, concealed, in and out of your conscious awareness. So it's not something that you may be aware of, but nonetheless, it impacts how you operate every single day. So the first thing to know about shadow work is that it is critical to expanding, growing self-awareness. How important is self-awareness to your growth? Exponential. How important is shadow work to your growth? Critical. So on a scale of 0 to 10, it's a 10. How many people do their shadow work? Not that many people. Let's see. How many people have done that? So see what I mean? Less than 50%, 60% almost don't know shadow work. So this is why I'm doing this video. And I'm doing this video because somebody requested it, honestly. I thought I had already addressed this topic, but I didn't realize how many people don't do shadow work in a numbers perspective. But shadow work is essentially those elements, those aspects, those places in which directly influence your reality. And if you're not doing shadow work, if you're not doing, I call it investigative work, like digging deeper, going beneath the surface, you're missing out on a vast majority of what needs to become aware of. So consciousness is about expanding your conscious awareness. You can't do that with blind spots. You can't do that with these unconscious barriers that you haven't given attention to. So often in the shadow is trauma, drama, conflict. These are the things that cause a lot of inner conflicts. I got a new coffee cup for Christmas, and I'm drinking my first tea out of it. I'm drinking Inner Light tea. So thank you for the cup. It's lots of stars. Pretty. But I'm drinking iced tea. It was in the refrigerator. Anyways, I digress. We're still talking about shadow work. But I think it's interesting that this is stars because you have the light and the dark. And that's essentially what shadow work is. It's bringing your light, your conscious awareness to that dark space, that blind spot, that aspect that has not been brought into your awareness. So self-awareness, it's critical to do shadow work, because if you don't do shadow work, well, then you're operating blind in a lot of ways. And blind spots, and I would say specifically spiritual blind spots, is where most of humanity has been manipulated, because they think spirit and religion are the same things, and they're not. Your self-awareness has nothing to do with your religious belief. Your personal relationship with God is totally separate than any religious dogmas. It is an individual personal relationship. And when you are doing shadow work, your inner light is what is bringing lightness to that shadow, that dark space, that aspect that needs awakening or awareness, so you can be more expanded in consciousness. So that's number one with shadow work. Number two, I will say, is that shadow work is pretty much useless if you don't do what's called integration. Integration is the integration of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies with that information. So let's just say you're doing shadow work and you have shadow work around insecurities. So let's just say you're insecure and you are going to integrate these aspects where you are insecure. So let's just say in your body, in your intellect, in your own perceptions of yourself, with your family. So you might be insecure about how you present yourself or how you speak or the way you speak. Maybe you have an accent, which I have an accent to pretty much anybody who's not from California. And even people in California are saying, Kiana, are you from the East Coast? You know, so people have different ideas, and they have judgments, and insecurities are judgments. So let's just say you're doing shadow work around insecurities. And then you would integrate your new awareness about insecurities physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That is how shadow work becomes integrated. If you just keep it as a self-awareness with zero integration through all your bodies, it's essentially useless. It's just intellectual banter, which is, you know, what's the point of that? What is the point? So let's just see. I'm going to end the poll here because it's clear you all aren't doing your shadow work. So this is going to help you. And if you are rude in the chat, you're just going to get ignored, okay? Number three. This is the thing about shadow work that I think a lot of people misunderstand. It's not hard to do shadow work. It's not hard to look for things that you're unfamiliar with. It requires curiosity and it requires time. It doesn't mean it's hard. It's just that so many people have been conditioned and programmed to not give themselves time, to not give themselves attention, to not give themselves presence. Shadow work requires presence. That's how you integrate. Number two, that's how you integrate all the bodies. You can't do it without presence. But it's completely easy work when you are present, when you practice present and you give yourself time to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it does require time. And if you practice giving yourself presence and time, then it's not going to be hard for you at all. Shadow work is hard when you get stuck in your mind and you think, well, I don't want to do this. Well, everything is hard when you don't want to do it. But when you are curious, it's not hard. So the key is to spark your curiosity about your own self, about your own aspects that are yours to embody. But without your conscious awareness, they can't be embodied. Okay? So that's number three. It's not hard, but it does take presence and time. Okay? Number four about shadow work that most people don't understand is that it really is making the unconscious conscious. This is why shadow work helps you expand in conscious awareness. It expands your consciousness. This means you become bigger, you become bolder, you become more embodied. But it does require that you understand that just because something is unconscious, hidden, or buried, doesn't mean it needs to stay that way. It's your responsibility to bring these spiritual components into your life. Nobody else is supposed to do that. And it doesn't matter how many books you read, you still have to do the work. And most people are not doing the work. So you could do the work, but it takes time. So give yourself that time. Okay, number five. This is the biggest one. So for all of you who out there have been anxious or depressed or sick, When you expand your conscious awareness, when you take time to do your shadow work, this means you're bringing the blind, you're seeing where you were once blind, you now see, okay? This is going to change your perspective on everything. When you are bringing those things that were hidden, buried, concealed, unknown, unseen to your conscious awareness, you now change your perspective. Anytime you are changing your perspective, you change your physical reality because we are consciousness beings. Now, I'm simplifying all of this because it doesn't need to be complicated. We're not really that complicated. Yes, we have a lot of technology that we have not accessed, and part of it is this technology where we could consciously expand our bandwidth. That means how we are holding frequencies, how we are signaling that frequency changes when we expand our consciousness. How amazing is that? And all it takes is presence, time, a little bit of energy, and willingness to be curious about your own self, your own self-awareness. So those are the 5 aspects of the shadow. I'm just going to recap it. First of all, the shadow work is critical for growing and expanding self-awareness. It's useless to do shadow work if you don't take time to integrate physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. 3 is it's not that hard. It's really not that hard, and all it takes is time. Your time, your personal presence. 4, it makes the unconscious conscious. So doing shadow work brings the unconscious aspects and elements into your conscious awareness. And when you do that, you get number 5, which is a change in perspective. And when you change your perspective, you change your entire reality. Your reality can change with your conscious awareness and doing the shadow work. Now, when I first started teaching at this consciousness work to my clients probably 20 years ago, I started with this thing called goal setting. And goal setting is a really important thing for people to understand because when you're setting goals, you're really creating what doesn't exist, okay? You're bringing the non-physical into the physical form, okay? So when you're doing that, you need to create a conflict within the brain. The reason why you're creating a conflict is because the brain solves problems in your sleep. The brain is a problem-solving machine. However, it requires a challenge, a conflict, a task in order to solve the problem. And often people are just not asking the right questions. So when you're doing shadow work, you really want to, do it from a place of lightness to the best of your ability. Because what you're going to be doing when you do shadow work is you're going to grow in your self-awareness, but you're also going to understand the lies in which you have lived are going to have to be dismantled. Because the shadows cannot stay the same when you're holding more light. And that's what you are. You're a light being, and we all have light bodies. That's what physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and then we have all these light bodies which you can't see, but trust me, they're in the shadow. And when you bring your light to those aspects of you, you ignite your light body and you become more, the word I'm getting is buoyant. You will be more filled, more illuminated, because you are now bringing lightness to what was once dark. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, shadow work. So let's see what y'all are saying in the chat here. I'm just going back to the beginning to see if I missed anything. Draco says in Poland, it's normal. Is it normal to do shadow? You're funny. Draco, we have Greg is from Poland too. That comes on here. Hey, Kaden, good to see you here. Draco says, I'm a security guard and I know people work in shadow. Well, you're talking about physical manifestation in shadow, shadow to form. But Draco, being in security, you would be exposed to more aspects of the shadow. However, what you would run into, i.e., what you would resonate with, Draco, would change as you do your shadow work. Literally, your resonance would shift and change. So that's a really good awareness that I'm glad that you helped me bring to the surface here. Because when you do shadow work, it changes how you resonate, which is why your perspective changes. Thank you, Amaya. She says, I don't look like her elementary school teacher in a bad way. Either way, I'm still a reflection of you. Okay? Greetings, Austria. Good to see you. Hi, Luke. Eric saying, howdy, brother Oliver. Cute. We live in a world with lots of shadows, metaphorical. Well, we are the ones that hold, when we address our own individual shadow, it will make us less resonant with what's called the collective shadow as well. So again, doing shadow work is not physical as much as it is non-physical that brings into form. So shadow becomes a resonant part of you that you may not be aware of. And a lot of people who struggle to attain vitality, to attain their health, to attain success, they omit doing their shadow work. And you can't, because it's a piece of it. It's a part of who you are. So it's really like bringing parts of yourself alive. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reading. Yes, unresolved conflicts are often comes with emotional instability. Yes. But emotional instability would come if you're looking at it from the perspective of shadow work, which is what we're doing today. Emotional instability would come from a lack of a willingness to look into the shadows, to resolve those incongruency, to see those aspects of the self that have yet to be integrated. So it's a different way of looking at it. Sunil, the YouTube lives usually are between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've played with changing the times, but usually within those times. Put your notifications on if you're new here. So 40% of you say, yes, you do your shadow work. Kudos to you. So then you want to say, what aspects have I yet to discover within my shadow work? Big Papa says he's been doing lucid dreaming. What do I think about you lucid dreaming? I think that's great. Lucid dreaming, but have an intention. Don't do lucid dreaming without intention. If you're not driving the dream, who is? Hello, Mike. Good to see you here. Lots of spam today. Thank you, Oliver. Vindode, I don't know how to say your name, but is asking how to overcome emotions. You don't overcome emotions. You embody your emotions. You recognize them. You witness them. Emotions are your soul expressing. So if your emotions are out of balance and unstable, That means it's gone ignored. It means it's been suppressed. It means it's been oppressed, and it needs your conscious attention to be with your emotions, see them, acknowledge them, so they can be integrated and transmuted. Hello, Eli. Good to see you here. Any questions about shadow work? So if I were to ask when you want to overcome your emotions, usually it's an aspect of yourself that you've been denying, okay? So when you are denying aspects of who you are, shadow work, and what happens is it starts to churn up the signal until you give it the attention that it needs to heal. So shadow work is really a fundamental aspect of healing. Your quantum reality is saying, I think I've been able to overcome the subject with 3 personalities. Well, there is a personality matrix, so you probably have more than 3, but you don't heal. The reason why we would have so many personalities is because there has been a lack of shadow work done. Does shadow work based on Sigmund Freud's theory of the unconscious mind? I don't know. I'd have to do research on that. I don't really follow traditional dogmas as to how this work gets done, so I can't say for sure. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical professional. I do what's called energy psychology. And what I can tell you energetically is that there are blind spots, there are dark spots, there is hidden, there is buried, there's concealed, there is confiscated, subjugated, all different ways that things go into the shadow. How things go into the shadow is up for debate, which I don't think it's even important to debate. But I will say this, if you have not done shadow work, and even if you have, oftentimes at play, there's an aspect called spiritual blindness, and that really derails people from aligning within. So when you start doing the shadow work, the first place I would look at is where are you most afraid to see? And I would start there, because I'm one of those people that I would like to get the hardest stuff done first. So where are you afraid to see? And so most people are afraid to see their family as they really are. And so what are some of the things that you're afraid to see about your family? What are the truths about your family? That they're judgmental maybe, that they're not as loving as you wished, all kinds of things. And many people's initial traumas in their life are coming from their family. But they don't want to see their family as it really is, and therefore they walk around wounded. I would say of all the executives, and I've worked with some very powerful executives who are in charge of billions of dollars, and they are walking wounded, and they don't even know it. So people who do not do their personal self-awareness work, and that doesn't mean working with a coach, because just because you worked with a coach doesn't mean it was a good coach. And I will tell you from experience, many coaches don't push their clients to do shadow work because then they will grow beyond the coach. And that scares a lot of coaches because they get paid that way. So you want to work with somebody who's not afraid of you being in your power. Because when you do shadow work, you will resonate differently with different people, and you will grow, you will expand. And maybe you stay with the same person who's in integrity, or maybe you outgrow that coach and you find somebody else. Chances are high that most people, even therapists, don't do shadow work because then you won't continue to come back. You'll resonate different. Your reality will actually change. How you see your trauma will shift. How you experience your history will change. Your quantum reality says, I've seen the light, so the shadows are clear to me. Good for you. Well, you are the light. You are the light. Sigmund Freud was the greatest philosopher. Oops, my light died. He said the subconscious mind is a real source of thoughts and views. I also heard recently this year that Sigmund Freud was a pedophile. I don't even know if you're allowed to say that on here. So ever since I got more information about how some of his stuff was originating from, it makes me even more suspicious of our educational system and how people are programmed and what they believe. But that's just me, that's just my 2 cents on that. So be careful who you listen to. Use your critical thinking always and work with people who are going to be willing to challenge your ways of believing. So I guess I'm not going to have a light today. I didn't plug it in. I wonder if I can plug it in now. Let me see. Oh. The next year will be very educational. Every day is an opportunity to align. It's going to be very, for all of us, because I think there's going to be a lot of truths that are going to come to light that is going to make people very, very uncomfortable in the coming year. Anyways, this video was for the group of people that were on here yesterday. I hope if you're watching this that you let me know in the comments what you think, because shadow work is definitely a unique way in which I do my work, both personally and professionally. That's how I see teams and how they need to change and grow. Welcome to the show, says, not seen the family since my dad passed away in 2018. The inheritance was shared. Been alone at Christmas, just me and my little dogs, and I'm happy with that tranquil. Wow. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you've accepted your situation. A lot of people, like to me, I think Christmas is just another day. But a lot of people get really upset about seeing their family how they are. It's better in the long run to see them. Otherwise, somebody dies, which is how I had a lot of my understandings about family. My whole world completely changed when my mother died. Totally changed. Things happened. I saw things when my dad died, but when my mom died, everything that I saw with my dad came up and magnified. Pretty much everybody. And it was insane. So, people dying, death is the physical death brings a lot of people, brings out who people really are, really. But good for you having your little dogs and being in peace. Does shadow work is exactly the way to explore our inner darkness? Well, yeah. You're bringing your consciousness into the unknown, or that is yet to be known, right? So you're doing that. And as you consciously bring your presence, your awareness into aspects of your personal, professional, friendship, community, religion, and you start to use critical thinking, you bring the unconscious to the surface. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Glad you're enjoying this video. So hopefully you find this helpful. I'm trying to think of what is the biggest area of shadow work besides family. One of the ways that you can learn about shadow work is just to ask your friends, what is their perspective of you that you don't know about yourself, and see what they say. And then if you start to see patterns in that, then you'll have really good awareness. Even the comments, a lot of the comments on here, although they're not personal, but they're personal, they're very illuminating to aspects of myself that maybe I had not considered. But a lot of shadow work, it requires removing some overlays. So energetic overlays go on top of things that keep us stagnant and blind. Hello, Elisas. Eli. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. All right, y'all. If you don't have any more questions about shadow work, we'll just call it a day on this topic. Welcome to this show says, saying hello to the community that seems to reflect back that energy. Well, it's just interesting because not all things are the reflection, right? So what we want to look for is patterns, because everything runs in patterns, even the shadow. So most people that are really depressed, they had patterns before they took that deep dive that they ignored, or that they suppressed, or that they oppressed, or maybe didn't know to look at. Whatever the reasons are, the fact if you're watching this video, you are being called to look at aspects that have been in the shadow, have been denied, and that need your conscious awareness. I would say that for sure. And who doesn't want their reality to change for the better? Gets brighter, lighter, less density. Thank you so much, Sunil. See you. Take care. All right, y'all. Well, I think this is a good place to stop. I don't see any other comments in the video. My name is Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. And this topic was on shadow work. I wanted to bring a unique and different perspective, one that you wouldn't really find anywhere else in one spot. And I hope that this inspires you to go investigate more about who you are, more about what you have to offer, not just yourself, but the world. And as you bring your light into the shadow, you will become more aware of how much you don't know, but also how much you can grow. So cheers to being in sync, cheers to being in alignment, and I'll see you all tomorrow.